What's up, beautiful people? Welcome to this another episode about this HTML course. In today's episode, we are going to cover again HTML forms, but in this occasion, we are going to see other types or HTML tags and using different types of input. For example, just right there, I already have the final HTML4 that we are going to cover in the following minutes. So as you can see, yeah, we have basic inputs like name, email, phone, but also we have something like age. Yeah, it's not a big deal. But also we have about maybe date of birth that we have to select a specific date using the date picker. Thank you for Google Chrome. We are using another section that is preference, and we have this particular interface that allows us to select maybe different types of genders. So excuse me people, it's just for educational purpose. So in this particular contest we are only use the male, female and other gender, and well, we can select only one of them. So as you can see, if I select male, I can select female, and maybe if I select other, I can select the other ones. And also we have another section about countries, and in countries we have this particular box that once we click on it, we have different options that is maybe pretty similar to gender, but the interface is different and allows us, for example, implement more options. For example, in this particular case, in a few minutes we are going to see how is the name of this interface, and also we are going to see what is the name of this other interface, and why we are using, or well, why we are using this limited option, because yeah, the both accomplish this the same use, that is select only or pick only one option. For example, about countries, I don't know, I'm from United Kingdom, because I already, my English is so British, so excuse me. And also we have this little box just right there that subscribe to our newsletter. So once we click, it's just something that is only active, and once we click again, we only deactive, or is like not active at all. And at the least we have a update your profile picture. That is not a big mystery, because we once we click on choose file, we have this interface that is provided by our operating system. So if you use MacOS, you have your file explorer. If you use Windows, you have your only explorer. In my case, I'm using Linux, in this particular case Fedora and Genome. So yeah, it's so different, but don't worry, because a web browser allows user to use maybe generic interface to use different types of web of about file explorer. So once we click on this, we can select any type of file. Well, we can also implement validation, what kind of files we can let to the user use. So we are going to cover just in one moment, and at the end, well, we already see how use this, and maybe some about you know that is a text area that we can edit, but also we cover how can remove this particular option that we have to use CSS. So that's nice. We also have this submit button. Well, there's a basic authentication, but once I click on the submit button, I will be sent to another page that doesn't exist. So it's not a big deal about it. So once we cover the particular HTML code, please let me increment the sound. Sorry, but in this particular case I am using a so improve setup, so that's right. And okay, so let's start with the basics. Also, we are using a CSS style. In this case, I am not comment the CSS, because I want to share with you the possibility, or the be able how can we be able to create our own CSS interface just like that. So don't worry, it's not a big deal. In the future we are going to cover how this particular code works, so just something that only exists and nothing else. So let's bring into the HTML code just right there. Well, we also have the div container that help us to provide specific CSS code. Also we have the heading one that you already know, guys, that heading one is the most important HTML tag in well, one individual HTML file, and the most important for this particular case is the form, because we are going to create a form and we have to use at the top level the form tag. So once we have the form tag, remember the action, the method is not something that we are going to cover because it's something functional that we are going to use in the future when we create web apps using JavaScript, PHP, or another backend language. So don't worry about it. Remember, this is something that the maybe the receptor that will be receive our information, and the way we are going to transmit or send that information to the receptor. So remember the field set. Field set allows using the legend to only split each different section, like personal information, preference, and message. So don't worry about it. It's something that we already covered in the last episode. Well, we have label. Remember the for, type, ID, name, etc. In this particular case, we are going to see the different variants about type. So let's dive into that particular case. Well, for example, in this case, we are using some additional attributes about the input tag once we use the type number. So once we use the type number, we can set, for example, a minimum age or a maximum age. For example, the minimum, as you can see, is 18 and the maximum is 100, and also has required. So I can't insert or just fill out an age greater than 100. I don't know, 101. I'm not sure if, for example, maybe it should be any kind of validation that doesn't allow us to send this form. But remember that the validation is not 100% useful, because user can modify or edit the HTML code through their web browser with some technical knowledge. So well, we are in the future we are going to use JavaScript and backend validation to make best or to improve this validation. So and the last one about this section is for example the date of birth, that we are using a different type that is date. If someone is asking about what does DOB mean, is just only the acronym, or as known as date of birth. So it's not something functional, it's just something like used for semantic HTML. That, remember, semantic HTML is one of the most important topics in HTML, because it's the way that you are indicate, or you are saying, or you are telling to the web browser, hey, this is my web page, and using a form, I'm using this particular resource to share information. And the other hand, we had the other file set. In this particular case, we are using preference. And in preference, this is the big deal about this new episode, because we are going to cover just I'm sorry, I just messed up. Let's return to the last, because I forget. Yeah, Alt C to collapse or grab the code, and that's nice. So we have the input radio, that we use to select one option about a different option. For example, in this particular case, depend on the context. So yeah, that's that. Well, this is something pretty obvious, but yeah, if you are using a form to transmit information, you already know how to use the different HTML tags, or input types, to tell, okay, you have different option, but you only can select one of them. So in this particular case, it has makes sense because we are talking about genre. So we are using radio, and in each type or input we have to use, for example, male and the name gender and value male. But this functional behavior is important to be clear how it is work, because as you can see, I'm using this input just right there, but they don't have the same pattern, like for example form or file set, because we have input also again just right there radio, and we have female, but female about what, and we have another input type radio, but we have other, but we don't know about what. And the name is the important tip about this, because the name is something that in a functional way allows to link one of them to say, hey, if the user are using this particular option to select their respect gender, so once we use the same label or the same, well, the same label, no, it's like the same reference, we're going to use gender. If I change this, for example, gender 1, so gender 1 is different than gender and the other gender. So if I go back to the page, I can select male, but also I can select at the same time female, but I can select female or other, because female or are on the same group. So that's why, or that's the functional behavior about this, is like we use the name to link one of each one of them. So it's important that use the same name and use the value for each type, and well, has the same behavior about a type radio. So let's pass to the following, that is maybe something similar, but in this case we are going to using something like, well, known as combo box. In popular ways is just like that, but in this particular occasion we are going to use pre-select HTML tag that is select, and in select we have where we are going to use ID like the other ones. For example, for label we are going to use 4, and the value about 4 has to be the same about the select name, and the ID country is only the identification name that we are going to use to get that particular select. And once we have the select, if we want a lot of different options, we have to use the literal name option HTML tag and provide using the value attribute. And for example, if the user select the visible information about United States, the user is literally selecting the USA value as the same like Canada. For example, if once the user select Canada, is not using Canada with the C, the uppercase, is just selecting the Canada in lowercase, because this is the final value that will be sent to the backend to make validation and more. And the other one maybe is the checkbox. The checkbox has only 2 states, active or inactive. So it's something like, for example, when we are talking about user agreement or terms of the condition, we used to say checkbox because we only have 2 states. If the user is agree or is not agree, then deny the user service terms and more. So in this particular case, we are going to use checkbox, and the checkbox use the same attributes like ID and name. Remember, name has the same value than label to connect the label with the input, and maybe some information about what is about what the checkbox is about it. And in this case, is subscribe to our newsletter. So once the user clicks on this, it's like, hey, if the checkbox is just has this check mark, that means that the user wants to subscribe to the newsletter, and once the user doesn't or well doesn't provide the check, and the in this particular case the sorry, because I don't remember the input type, the chatbot is only empty blank. That means that the user are not interested to receive in this context or newsletter. So let's get into the final example. That is, maybe, well, we are not going to cover the text area because we already know how the text area works, but we are going to cover the type file, because the type file is so important to share a resource with a server or with the other person. So in this case, we are using the same thing, like label for file, the indication about the label, the input type, in this case again file. Please don't get crazy about why I am using file in the type and also I am using file in ID and name. You already know that we use file in the name because this is the name of the attribute that will be sent to the backend, and the backend look for the file property to say, okay, just in this reference are the file that that the user sent us. And the same, we use file in the label to connect label with input. We use the ID just to locate the input HTML element, and we use the file type because we are going to use in the literal way and functional way the type file. So once we select the type file, we can use this and well, access to all our system resource and share with the system or with the interface, that in this case is the Google Chrome page. And we have maybe a validation that they are the same like the other validation we see in the past, that is something like, okay, in this particular case we are using only image, any type of image. If you are see about this character means that we are going to receive any type of image. It doesn't matter, it's just JPG or PNG, etc. Doesn't matter. Another kind of image, I don't remember just right there, is whatever about the image, so don't worry. But if maybe you want only accept PNG, you are going to script PNG and you are only receive PNG. But remember, this validation is not good at all, because user can edit this and send whatever they want. So this validation also should be supported by another system, like for example the backend or JavaScript code, that maybe the JavaScript code is a little more complex to modify. So I think that's all. Remember the submit button, that it should be at the end of the form, and using the type submit. Remember, once you use the button, you have different types of button, and the literal button is just type button. But remember that it's a good semantic reference. Use the once you use the button, try to tell to the web browser what kind of button you are using. In this particular case, we are using submit. That means once we click on submit, well, that run the validation, and well, we don't cover the validation, but once all is inside quotation mark good, it will be sent to the URL just right there, that is submit. So I think that's all. I hope you guys, this video was helpful. Remember, any kind of the question we are going to well, you can share in the comments section below, or you are also welcome to the Discord community server that also we help with others. So I hope you this video was helpful, and see you in the next time. Bye bye.